All right, today we're going to be talking about the Supernote Manta and the Nomad here and giving a really direct comparison between the two of them. I've been asked this question many times in the comment section, and I just want to clear the air as to which one of these Supernote devices is my personal favorite. And straight up, right off the bat, the Manta. Hands down, the Manta is my favorite e-ink device I've ever used. Ever. I talked about this in my live stream that just came out recently, and that is 100% true. So if that's all you needed to know, well then you can end the video right here and go on with your day. But if you want to know some of the reasons why, then stick around. So this video won't need to be super in-depth or anything because honestly these devices are very, very similar. They both have a loop that holds their pens. Now they're a little different and we'll talk about that in a bit. They both have auto sleep, auto wake. They have the exact same software experience. They both have the power button and the charging port on the top of the device and nothing on the bottom. The Nomad does have a magnetic folio though that takes off the pen loop when the folio is removed, while the Supernote has a mechanical folio that you have to remove via this switch at the back here, which is very interesting. But when removed, the pen loop here stays attached because it's attached to the device, not the folio cover. They both have modular designs. In fact, you can see right through this crystal edition of the Nomad here and see the motherboard, the battery, the SD card slot, and even through some of the other stuff here. And those are both very easy to replace on the Manta as well. You just pop off some tabs and you get access to it right here. So they have that in common. The battery is bigger on the Manta, but just because you got more space to fit it, which makes sense. But the processors are actually exactly the same. They both have a 1.8 gigahertz quad-core processor with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of internal storage. They both have Bluetooth, SD card support, and USB-C 2.0, which allows for external drives and things to be connected for file transfer and all that kind of stuff. And even you can do headphone source through that, all that kind of stuff. And they both support a bunch of file types. So you get all that in common between both of these devices. They both very easily support Supernote's pens, and you can get whatever stylus you want for either of these devices. It's not specific to one or the other. So we've seen a lot of similarities now. So what are some of the big differences in design? Well, first of all, this is the crystal edition of the Nomad here, obviously. So that looks different than the white plastic on the Manta, but you can get a white plastic version of the Nomad. What I will say, as one who has had both Nomads, the white plastic feels closer to the Manta's plastic, but the Manta's plastic still feels higher quality and a bit more premium than the white plastic version of the Nomad. I don't know why, but it just does. The white plastic versions of the Manta and the Nomad though, with these tabs, are easier to get to the SD card slot and other things than the crystal edition, because you have to take off all these screws and then everything kind of comes apart, and it's a little more finicky than just taking off some tabs and then getting to all this stuff. And then the Manta has these curved edges. So at the thinnest point, it goes to 3.6 millimeters, which is really thin. And then at its thickest point in the center here, it's 6 millimeters, which is still as thin as an iPad mini. So that's fantastic. This crystal edition Nomad is about as thick as the thickest part here. A little bit thicker. It's about like 6.2 millimeters. So very comparable. It just doesn't have those contoured edges like the Manta, which gives it those eye looks and the Manta name. It also has these rubber feet at the bottom here, which help it stay a little bit better on a surface like this versus the Nomad, which does not have them. Although this crystal edition back is stickier, so it kind of grips the table a bit more. However, be careful what surfaces you put the Crystal Edition on. They do warn you in the box that it can scratch much easier than the regular white plastic. So, all right, that's the main differences between the design of these two devices. Now, the obvious, the screens. Resolution-wise, they're identical. They're both 300 ppi. However, this screen is a Carta 1100 screen, where this screen is a Carta 1300. So this is a newer screen technology than the Nomad. It might be a little less gray than the Nomad here. Sorry, my lighting isn't the greatest for this because you get some glare here. But if it is, it's fractional and doesn't change a lot. So this is the 8mm line template on each device. And just look at how many more lines you get on the Manta and how much longer each line is. You are getting a lot more screen space on the Manta versus the Nomad. So just really keep that in mind. Ask yourself, is the portability of this small device worth that loss of writing space? For me, I was looking for a small tablet when the Nomad just came out, and I got this one and I loved it because I wanted a small tablet. But after having the Manta, oh my goodness, I don't use the Nomad as much anymore. I sometimes use it for reading or taking notes on just a document like that. But when it comes to writing, I'm on the Manta all the time. And there is another reason for that too, but a big one is the size of the screens. I think I personally underestimated the benefit of a larger display. And now that I have it, I don't want to go back. And as you can see here on the sidebar, you actually get a few more tools shown on the side than you get on the Nomad. So you have to go into the 3 dots and see some of those same tools. Now, is that the end of the world? Absolutely not. It's pretty easy to go into the 3 dots and do that. But it's still an extra step you're going to have to take that you don't have to take on the Manta. And one of those settings is adding a notebook to quick access, which I think is a great thing to finally have on my sidebar. And while we're on the subject of screens here, I've heard some people mention that they thought the Manta had worse ghosting than even the Nomad here. So we're gonna test that as best as we can. So I'm gonna take the highlighter on both of them, as this kind of causes a lot of ghosting, usually for me at least, and just mark up the screen pretty good. Wait for them to refresh here. Actually took less time for the Nomad to refresh. So as you can see, going through here, we're kind of swiping back and forth between some of the pages and letting that build up a little bit without refreshing the page. And if you look on the Nomad here, it's really hard to see any residue of that highlighter on the page. It's pretty good about wiping that away every single time it refreshes. Maybe a little bit this time around on this one here, but not much at all. Pretty eliminated. And let's check on the Manta, doing those same motions. And it's not huge, but I do see some of those effects there. Let's even try one a bit more subtle, just in the bottom. And is there some ghosting here on the Manta? Yeah, because watch as we clean it up, it does look a little nicer there. But I don't think I'm noticing a huge difference here. There was a little bit of a difference between the Manta and the Remarkable 2, kind of on both ways. And if you want to know more about that, watch my comparison video between those two. I do see some of that ghosting there. I'm basically tracing it now. So some of that, it is there. Is it significant? No. And is it something you can easily wipe away with a screen refresh? Yes. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think they can probably also tweak this in the software. And I'm also on the beta on the Manta here, so maybe they already have been tweaking this. Not really sure, but that could be a factor. All right, Next, I want to focus on the writing feel of the two devices. I'm going to be using the same pen here as well. You'll also be able to hear some of the sounds that I make with the pen while writing, because there actually is a difference. Even though these both use the Feel-Right 2 screen films, the base screen on the Manta is actually plastic and flexible, where the base screen on the Nomad is glass, so it's a little more rigid. Yeah, Supernote's writing experience is fantastic. Either one of these, I think you'll be very happy with the experience of writing on them. But again, the Manta just pulls out ahead, as that extra give in the screen adds to that notebook pad of paper feeling, and it just gives you not more fatigue, but just an extra something that feels much better with the screen. And the Nomad just feels a bit more rigid and just doesn't give that same give that the Manta does. Now, it gives a little bit because of the Feel-Right 2 screen on it, and they're not worlds different. So people are telling you that this Manta changes Supernote writing experience completely. They're exaggerating. It's not that different, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't like the Manta better. So do either of these devices really have anything that's super unique to them they can do? Not really. Like I said, same processors in them, same software that they're running. You just get much more space on the Manta. Now, what is different is some of the accessories, which I kind of mentioned earlier. So you get this mechanically connected half folio, which is definitely not as easy to connect to the device. Wow, I'm really struggling right now. But I want to show you guys that it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes. It's not something you're going to want to take on and off quite as easily as the Nomad, which just magnetizes right on and no problem there. Another difference is that the lining of the Nomad's case is microfiber, where this is just that vegan leather material inside and out, no microfiber lining. Now, does it really need it within having the Feel-Right 2 screen film on? No, not really. I think the microfiber is honestly more for the back with this acrylic clear plastic here. We talked about some of the differences of these pen loops, but another one is that this is like a stretchy fabric material on the Manta here. It gives you like 3 different sizes, so you can kind of pick and choose the best size for the pen you're going to use, but none of them work great with a big fat pen like the Lamy here, mostly because when you set it on a table, now it's rocking the Manta a little bit. As you can kind of see there, it's pressing down on that and it's no longer level. You could put this folio behind it so it makes it a bit closer to level, but it's still not all the way there, and that does bother me a little bit when I'm writing with it. But a big thing is that at least when you fold this folio around, it is perfectly flat with the device, and now it's perfectly flush on the table. Where when you take this Nomad, fold its folio around, it is not flat. It is at a pretty steep angle actually, and this is not that comfortable to write on, at least for me. I don't like how slanted this feels, and I will often just take it out of the case because it annoys me that much and then write like this. Or I feel like I have to just lay it down like that, and then it gets in the way of other things. but at least now it's level. So honestly, I think the perfect combination of these two would be the half folio, because honestly, I like the reduced weight of having a half folio and how thin it is on the device and how flat it folds. All that is good with me, but I think I would have probably preferred magnetic connection, kind of like how Penstar's half folio works. It still feels very secure to me, and it's just easier to take on and off. And then I like the pen loop on the device, but I think I would have preferred a stiffer material like what's on the Nomad here with this vegan leather material. And it holds the Lamy pen really nice and secure, and it kind of holds it up a little bit so it still stays flat when laid down on the table. And I actually am working on 3D modeling and designing a new pen loop for the Manta, and I plan on printing it out of a flexible TPU plastic. And if I can get that working well and I like how it works, I might start selling it for you guys if you're interested in that, because honestly, it seems like it would bring the best of both worlds to this device. All right, so I'm going to kind of conclude with this thought. Why would anyone even go for the Nomad? Well, a lot of people would look at it and say, well, it's way more portable. And in some cases, it's true. In other cases, it's not. All right, if you're the kind of person to bring a backpack most places you go, and it's at least big enough for a 10.7-inch tablet, I think the Manta is gonna feel almost more portable than the Nomad, and in some ways take up less space in your bag. Because it's thinner and more stretched out, it fits into the sleeves super easily, where this, especially in its folio, is pretty chunky. So it actually takes up and bulks out your bag more so than the Manta in a lot of scenarios. Now, if you're just carrying it by the device itself, sure, this is a little bit lighter, this is a little bit more portable, but not by a lot. This is still pretty light and easy to carry. In fact, the Nomad with its pen and folio is about 433 grams, and the Manta with its folio and the exact same pen is 511 grams. So it's different. It is heavier, but is it a lot heavier? No, it's really not. And it just gives you so much more space to work. It's also not a lot more expensive. There's just a lot of good reasons to go for the Manta. This is if you really, really have a size constraint, you really love smaller A6 size notebook paper, all that kind of stuff. If that's just your thing, well then you're gonna love it. And it's still a great tablet. But if you like more space, if you're worried it's gonna feel too heavy or too bulky, it's not, and it's probably gonna feel and fit in really nice. All right, sorry for kind of gushing over the Manta. I've been doing a lot of that lately, honestly. It's just a tablet I use every day, and I just love every second of using it. But I hope this was able to make your decision between the Nomad and the Manta even easier from someone who thought he would prefer the Nomad. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and comment below. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. And just sharing this video, getting it out there, anything you can do helps this channel grow, so I can reach even more people and make even more good quality, honest content for you guys out there. I'm always looking to improve, and if you have any advice or anything you can give me to help me improve further, just let me know. I'm starting to do more live streams now, so if you're wanting to ask me questions directly, get to know me a little bit better, join on those live streams. I'm hopefully gonna have a pretty consistent schedule with that coming up here soon. And I really want to get to know you guys more and actually be able to interact right away in real time. It'll be great. Also, if you're wondering, I do have a full review planned for the Supernote Manta. If there's anything else that I haven't already talked about with this device, I think I've covered most things in these comparisons and in some of the live streams I've done, but I will be doing a 1 month later video, and that should give me plenty of time to really evaluate how I feel about this device and make sure I'm not still in the honeymoon phase of this tablet either. If you're curious about the setup I use it all, it's all going to be linked in the description down below. And as always, have a great rest of your day.